Hi, I'm Dr. Andrea Stover, licensed marriage and family therapist, and you're listening to the Modern Day Romantic Podcast. Hi, everyone, and welcome to today's episode. Today, we're going to be talking about the phenomenon of synchronicity and how that pertains to being a romantic and romantic relationships. So let's get started by defining what synchronicity is. Maybe that's a word you use. Maybe you have your own idea of what it means. I'm going to come at it from the lens of Carl Jung's work, a depth psychoanalyst perspective, and he defines it as an acausal correlation. So there's a meaningful coincidence that occurs but there being this acausal correlation means that this didn't cause that. They both co-occurred simultaneously. And they may not happen at the exact same time, of course, but ooh, eerie. I was just thinking about that person and then they called. Oh, fascinating. Those types of everyday synchronicities, I don't know that we put as much meaning on. I think they probably occur more frequently than what we even realize or recognize. One example from Jung's writings that I find a very interesting example is he was working with a patient who was presenting a dream she had had to him for him to analyze and interpret. And within that dream, there was a scarab beetle that had appeared. So she was talking about this. And at some point in that session, I believe I'm remembering this part right. I think there was a tapping on the window, but somehow they look over and there is a scarab beetle right there, right in that session that they're both looking at as she's been just talking about this dream, this image, this symbol that appeared, and there it is in conscious waking life. So that's a synchronicity, an example of it that Jung uses, and kind of helps to set the stage of the flavoring of where I'm wanting to go with what a synchronicity is. Now, I would imagine sometimes people use the word synchronicity interchangeably with serendipity or a serendipitous experience. And I want to take a moment to say, I don't think those things are one and the same. Serendipity has more of a positive quality to it, whereas a synchronicity may not be positive. So let me just, I looked up the definition of synchronicity. So it's defined as the faculty of making fortunate discoveries by accident. Okay, there's a fortunate quality or component here. The synchronicity is meaningful, but it's not always positive. This is a really important point because if you're not aware of that and a synchronicity occurs, you might interpret it to mean something very positive that may not be accurate, and therefore it may lead to hurt, disillusionment, all sorts of things. Okay, so I want to give an example of this as well. In thinking about romantics and my working definition, I think that longing, yearning, pining to find a special person to have a fulfilling love relationship with, you're automatically showing up with a desire and with an interpretive lens, looking for signs. You're looking for signs. You're looking for evidence. Hey, you've got what it takes to be my special person, or oh, you are my special person because, oh my gosh, you like that. I like that too. We're meant to be. So I think synchronicities, I've heard a lot. I've experienced synchronicity all throughout my life as well too. When it comes to relationships, they can be on a continuum, but it might be, oh gosh, I just made my list of, the qualities I'm looking for. And then and I put something specific on there, and the next day, or, all of a sudden someone comes into my life and they fit it, perfectly or meet the criteria, whatever. I think a synchronicity could be finding someone that has a specific interest or a specific trait or something that is familiar or similar to you, or that you think is unique, and that not everyone likes that, or not everyone's interested in that. Or again, hey, I was just thinking about this the other day, and now I'm out on a date with you, and you just said that. Wow, we're on the same wavelength. Okay, so there's some of those things all the way up to, and I'm not kidding, maybe having a dream like Jung's patient, Analysand, where maybe you get a vision in your dream, or you meet someone, or get a message that you're going to meet someone in a certain number of days, or at a time frame or something, and then that comes to fruition in waking life. That's a pretty big synchronicity, right? Like, wow, fireworks, this is so meaningful, this must be the right person. Okay, and everything in between. By the way, I would love if anyone has a synchronistic encounter or experience that you want to share, that you'd feel comfortable. I'd love to hear them. I love to hear people's stories and kind of how these play out through time. But okay, that aside. So, as a romantic, if you're out there looking for love, and you have you're already prone to interpreting things as being serendipitous, right? You're looking for the positive. You're looking for the check, 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 check. Yes, this is right. This is right. This is right. Then you may be setting yourself up, because you might not be in the full picture of what a synchronicity might be bringing into your conscious awareness. Okay, so let's play that forward and what that might mean. Let's take it with that extreme example I just said, where maybe you have a dream that you're going to meet someone, and oh my gosh, you meet them in the flesh. There they are right there, whether you knew what they were going to look like, or you just happen to meet someone and you must be who I dreamt about. Look at all of that openness, all of that meaning, all of that hope, all of that certainty that you're going to go into that experience with, because of that linking of the synchronistic encounter. And the truth is, you don't know anyone until you get to know them. And how do you get to know someone? Not just by asking questions, but by and through experience and time. So it takes time to develop a real relationship with someone. And I do think that a lot of people have synchronistic encounters at the beginning of their relationship. And a lot of people probably put a lot of weight and meaning on that, and are in relationships, continue to be in relationships as a result of the meaning that you put on the beginning, or that initial encounter, which there's nothing wrong with. That's perfectly fine. There's something magical almost about a synchronistic encounter. But I've also lived long enough and heard plenty of stories to say that a lot of times those synchronistic encounters might seem like they're too good to be true, or a match made in heaven, only to be heartbreaking, earth-shattering experiences that people feel even more blindsided by, because of the weight of meaning and the interpretation put on meeting that person and how they came into their life, or all the ways that things seemingly aligned or matched up. So that's a really important point that I'm wanting to make with synchronicity, is that maybe synchronicity isn't there just to give us the green light go, because I don't actually think that's what it is doing. I think sometimes it's saying stop, pause, pay attention. Something significant just occurred, and you may not know the meaning of that until time plays out. And it's so easy to want to jump to have things mean and be interpreted for what we hope they are, rather than what they actually are. So synchronicities, oftentimes bumping up into someone in these ways, can lead to a tremendous amount of psychological growth, because you're really challenged. You really take in something that is very, again, maybe you're not on guard. Maybe you don't have any boundaries up really, because it's so meaningful, and it's going to work on you. And through time and with context, you might find, oh my goodness, this meant something very different. But as a result, I was able to see myself more clearly. I was able to learn something as a result of this. I was able to feel the pain of the disillusionment and realize what I had projected and why I put so much meaning on what I thought that was is actually the information that I need in order to grow myself and become more conscious of who I am and what it is that's happening to me in this relational field with another. Okay, another really important point that I want to say about synchronicities when they occur between people is that they can mean different things for each person who's experiencing the synchronicity, and they may not even be synchronistic to both people. So romantics can easily leapfrog over the other to live in that state of, oh my goodness, this means all of this for us. We have found one another now, or our relationship is this, and can sometimes fail to pause and say, okay, wait, I'm having an experience. I wonder if it's shared. And even if it's shared, it doesn't mean it's going to be the same. So this is another thing that people can't know through time. The act of falling in love is a lot like this. It could be a shared experience, like we're both falling, but you're not the same person, and your experience of the falling and your experience of coming back into your individuality after that initial fusion with one another is going to be a bit different, probably. So if you have a synchronistic encounter with someone at the beginning of the relationship or at some point during the relationship, and you put a lot of meaning on that, that doesn't mean that the other person feels the same way. It doesn't mean it means the same thing to them. In fact, it likely doesn't, because it's got to be individually applied and personal. Okay, so I want to bring a bit of application to this, because I think we can talk, theory. Yeah, there's these experiences that happen, but you've got to be able to apply this to yourself in order for it to be meaningful, in order to challenge yourself to grow, become more conscious, et cetera, et cetera. So here's where I'm going to start. What is it that you believe when it comes to encountering another? Not just another, but your special person. How is it that you believe that love is going to unfold or develop? What is that story? And how is it you're going to just know instantly? Is it that, fate or destiny is going to bring you together in some magical, mystical way? And therefore, the encounter, if that is the case, if you are going to be much more susceptible, much more vulnerable to falling for synchronicity, meaning, hey, I've found, quote unquote, the one and only for me. This is so meaningful. This is such a synchronicity. This has to mean this. And as a result, you're probably going to dive into the deep end and skip over a lot of steps and a lot of stages of the getting to know process. I think romantics are extremely susceptible to doing this. It's just, you're already wired to want these types of things to happen, to believe in serendipity, which, remember, is not the same thing as synchronicity. And when you are confused about that, you're not going to keep a bit of yourself restrained, held back, take in, be open, but don't do that dive into the deep end with a synchronicity, because that doesn't mean it's a serendipitous encounter that you've just had with someone that is going to be all good. Very often, synchronicities are coming in to teach us something or show us something that we don't know. So I want to offer that. But I think that narrative and what that means to be a romantic. And a lot of people, probably not everyone who identifies as being a romantic, would say, oh yeah, I believe in this is the one for me. And that's a whole other topic that I have a lot to say on, that I will do an episode on at some point soon. But for today, we've got to set even that conversation up by talking about how is it that we make the decision to dive in with someone, and what is the role of these synchronistic encounters. And maybe there's something to the larger intelligence orchestrating life, to where the unconscious would be that intelligent to have us bump into someone that we just made the list about that we would like to meet, or, we just had the dream about, and boom, there they are. And there's something to it, right? So we don't want to be so cautious and so skeptical, but we want to be eyes wide open that, I want this to mean this, and I can't know what it means until time goes by, time progresses. And by the way, through time, the context also changes. And you're often able to look back at experiences you had, including, if you're in a relationship now, the beginning of the relationship, and kind of what led to you making the choice or the decision to be with the person you're with, and what today leads you to continue to choose to be with your partner. I think this is another way that the relationships can sometimes become static, that they're kind of stale because we've made the decision and that's that. And some people have incredible stories of how they came to be together. And that's what we see on the movies, right? Is we always see the story of the beginning and how people meet and how they work out. Oh my gosh, we've decided to be together. And most stories end there. They do. Most of them do. At least it seems to me. So all of this to say, these synchronistic encounters, and I bet some of you have had some pretty tremendous ones happen to you. And I bet you've been through a lot of heartache and pain on the back end of realizing it didn't exactly mean what you hoped it would mean. So I think it's really important, this point, synchronicities are not serendipity. Synchronicities come to help us grow, to teach us things, and to stretch us beyond our limited capacity and the confines of our own consciousness. They help us see, hey, maybe I'm not quite as in control as what I think. I can have my individual hopes, dreams, wishes, desires for a relationship, but ultimately there is something in the unconscious realm that also plays a huge factor in our relationships, and especially in these synchronistic encounters that we can have in relationship. Okay, so where do you fall in this? Have you had these synchronistic encounters that I'm talking about? What have you learned from them? What's your story about them today? How have you made meaning a different meaning, perhaps, than, oh my gosh, this is amazing, this is perfect, this is wonderful, this is divinely orchestrated? Maybe you did have a synchronistic encounter that was very serendipitous, and that has been the continued narrative and your experience. And if so, that's wonderful. That's amazing. I just know that's not everyone's experience. And so I thought it would be important to talk about a little bit of what synchronistic encounters might be really urging us to do, which is grow, change, be challenged, stretch, see things from a different vantage point than what we hope, more so for what we don't know, to say, oh, I just had this fascinating thing happen and I have no clue what it means, and that's okay. Living with uncertainty. That to me is life, after all. All right. Thanks for listening to this episode, and I will see you next one. Thanks so much for tuning in to today's episode. If you're interested in learning about ways to work with me, head over to my website, themoderndayromantic.com. synchronicity.com. From there, you'll be able to contact me and learn a bit more about the customized intensives and retreats I offer both individuals and couples. You'll also be able to support future podcast production via Patreon. There are several membership levels to choose from, including the Beating Hearts Club, which gives you access to exclusive content every month. Thanks so much for your support, and I'll see you next episode.